Welcome to the Manhattan Project, where we murder people. Tonight, I went to go see Murder on the Orient Express. This is another adaptation of the famous Agatha Christie novel. It was shot in 70mm, which is cool. I got to see that at the Village City Cinemas East. Take a look at that.
Look at this. Cool theater. 70mm special. Murder on the Orient Express in 70mm.
So if you're not familiar, the movie is about a bunch of people, including the famous eccentric Belgian detective Hercule Poirot, all stuck on a train, the Orient Express, where one of them is murdered, and there's many, many suspects. Who could it be? For these many, many suspects, we have a murderer's row of famous talent, including Kenneth Branagh, Judi Dench, Michelle Pfeiffer, Daisy Ridley, one of her major roles after Star Wars, Johnny Depp, Willem Dafoe, if I didn't say him already, Josh Gad. A lot of people for all the many suspects. Take a look at the trailer.
A passenger has died.
The murderer is on the train with us now.
Train is stuck.
The real killer is right here. What are you people?
I'm sleeping here, where everyone can see me, and I can see everyone.
Cannot trust no one, no?
So, my expectations going into the movie, I would say that actually, about a month ago, I was probably more excited for it. And then the reviews came out, and they were kind of tepid. And I admit I peeked at the reviews, which I shouldn't have done, but I did. But still, there was something about it. I mean, I love mysteries, and I like the original movie, and so I still really wanted to see it, I guess, despite all that. The Murder on the Orient Express is a slick piece of entertainment that achieves everything it sets out, with one or two exceptions, thus making it pretty much the best airplane movie to come out in 2017. So I'll get the bad stuff out of the way pretty much right off the bat. I think Kenneth Branagh was miscast in the lead role. I know he tends to act in the movies he directs, but I just didn't quite buy his performance. I also found his mustache to be very irritating. I get it, the character's supposed to have a big mustache. Here, it seemed like the point of the mustache was to be so big as to obscure his mouth so that they could do easier ADR. Which leads us to the second big problem in this movie, which was the audio. I saw this movie on 70mm. It looked gorgeous. That's one of the things I liked, was how good the movie looked. The production design was great. I thought the cinematography was good. I know in some of the reviews they nitpicked it, but I don't know. Worked for me. But what didn't work for me was the audio. You have a lot of people, you're on a train, so there's train noises or wind noises for when the train stops, people with all kinds of accents and gravelly voices. And I just had to work way too hard to understand what people are saying. And this is, a very dense mystery. There's a lot of stuff flying back and forth, a lot of little clues that you want to pick up on. So when people respond and you don't understand what they say, that's pretty bad. So the audio in this movie was not great. And there was definitely a few wonky ADR things. And this is an example where a technical issue does become a real critical issue, because it did somewhat disrupt my enjoyment of the movie, and unfortunately makes it a worse airplane movie. Airplane movies don't always have subtitles available. It's also really loud on airplanes, so even though it's that perfect sort of zippy, fun mystery, it might be hard to watch on an airplane. But as far as things I liked, this movie was very old school with regards to the cinematography, a lot of, old school sort of framing. And not always. It's tight spaces on a train, so there were a lot of close-ups, which does tend to be modern coverage. But a lot of times I was very impressed at how the coverage made the movie feel somewhat timeless. There were aspects of it that connected to the original, or the first adaptation, or to just any movie that could have come out, not necessarily in 2017. I thought the casting was very strong, other than Kenneth Branagh. Daisy Ridley, this is one of her major roles after Star Wars. She does great. Michelle Pfeiffer, a lot of people are talking about, because she really is fantastic. For a movie that is, fairly light, yes, it's about murder, but it's very, fun and self-conscious as a mystery. She's able to add both some real drama to it, but also a lot of the movie's sense of humor. The movie had sort of a dry wit about it. Every now and then it goes for like the slightly easier joke, but even then, with underneath that, there's some sort of like knowing self about it. That yes, this joke's a little slapsticky, but it's almost like just part of the package, if that makes sense. Then the rest of it is a drier wit about how people act and how they drink and how they hit on women and think about themselves. And, the character of Hercule Poirot lends himself to that because he's a very direct person. So you get some fun quips with him being direct with people. He's being polite, but he's actually being quite impolite at the same time. So those are things I liked in the movie. The casting, for the most part, the look of the movie, the production design is gorgeous. I like the cinematography, the pacing. I mean, the movie never drags. It takes a little bit of time to set up the pieces, but that's expected because I personally like to know a little bit about the characters before we get to the mystery. And yes, there is a long interview section of the movie, but it was surprisingly engaging. That's kind of what old school mysteries are. Anyone who's read J.K. Rowling's mystery books that she's written after Harry Potter, it's a lot like that, where it's a lot of going from this person to that person and talking and sort of finding inconsistencies, and at the end you get the big but surprisingly fun exposition dump about who the killer may or may not be. I suppose some people would question what is the value of this movie, considering that it literally already exists, and a lot of people like the original version. It was also filled with a lot of talented people and has its own Oscar nominations. The main reason I can think of this movie being interesting is that it in some ways feels like a potential last stand for adult entertainment that's not an Oscar movie. Like it is rare that we make these sort of $40 million budgeted movies that are meant for adults these days. There's raunchy comedies, there's big Marvel blockbuster movies, there's smaller Oscar movies, and then like what happened to that middle class. It almost feels like the point of making this movie was the perfect idea for stuffing in a ton of star power so that people could still see one of these movies. So if I had to give it a star rating, yeah, I'll give it it's in that 2.5 to 3 star range. I'm feeling generous. I'll give it 3 stars. I did enjoy my time. It takes a little bit of time to get going. Unfortunately, it is not the best Agatha Christie type mystery to come out recently. If you want a mystery like this, where it's sort of a locked room thing with a lot of suspects, believe it or not, I think you should go watch Non-Stop, the Liam Neeson movie. Something about that movie just really clicked with me as far as the anyone could be the killer thing. But if you've already seen that, then you can go see Murder on the Orient Express, because it's pretty solid. Thank you guys so much for watching. We are the Manhattan Project. We go see movies all the time, all over the place in New York, and review them for your pleasure. Thank you so much for watching.